And at that point, the judges would flash the face of the winner of the head-to-head battle. No scores are needed. Welcome back to the Green Beans Go channel. It's your host, me, and yes, I have the Vince Carter on because I dress for the occasion. The goal of today's video is to fix the NBA dunk contest. I've watched it for the last 3 years, and every time I go to bed that night, that Saturday, I'm underwhelmed, and I think, what are we doing? Have we lost touch with what this event has been in the past and should be every year? Not only for myself, a middle-aged man who enjoys the nostalgia, but for the youth out there who are looking at these guys trying to aspire to be them. I remember watching these dunk contests as a kid and then going out in the driveway and trying to recreate these, putting up the Nerf hoop in your room and trying to recreate these. And there wasn't a dunk last night that I wanted to recreate. Not that I'd be able to anyway. So when I went to bed, I thought instead of just complaining about it, I'm going to come up with a solution, and a solution that will likely never see the light of day. Adam Silver is not going to see this video, and probably no one who has any pull with coming up with the rules and changing how the way things work in the NBA is going to see this, but it's not going to stop me from creating this content anyway. So when I really sat down and thought about why this NBA contest is not living up to the hype that it once had, I came up with 4 things: participants, format, judges, and dunks. And I looked at all of those things and I thought, how can we narrow this down and what do we have control over? What can we actually fix? So I'm going to give you the 2 things that I would do moving forward and in future dunk contests that I think could potentially change the trajectory of this event and actually make it more exciting and add some novelty and pep back into it. So the first thing we'll talk about is the format. I think we need a format change. And I'm not saying last night wasn't good. I actually like the composite scores that they did from round 1, where your 2 scores combined, and then you were able to move on to a second round, and then your 2 scores combined. I didn't think that was bad. I don't think that's inherently the wrong way to do it, but I think it leaves room for too much error. And the error comes in how the judges score it. You're relying on a panel of judges to just give an arbitrary number, 1 through 10, and actually the minimum score I believe is 40, so they have to give a score of 8 through 10, which only gives them 3 numbers to pick from. And you saw last night in round 1, no judge really wanted to give a 10 because it was round 1. You give a 10 to a round 1 dunk, then what happens in round 2? You can't give another 10. It just, it was obvious. No judge gave a 10 until Jaylen Brown dunked in the final round. So these guys are going out there and their first 2 or 3 dunks, their ceiling is a 9. They're either going to get an 8 or a 9, and I just don't love that. Also, I think one of the biggest errors last night was in Mac McClung's first dunk where he did this like self alley-oop to him. That dunk I've never seen before. That might be the only dunk that we saw last night that was original. How many people jumped over somebody, right? Every other dunk was somebody jumping over someone, but Mac McClung jumps over someone and alley-oops himself in the process, and he gets what, a 46 and a half? Okay, it was a 48, but still, that was a 50. I also don't love the format because it feels like the judges are not clear about what the rules are. If a player misses their first dunk, it shouldn't take away from what their score is if they complete the dunk, and it feels also like that's playing a role. So here's how we change the format. If the NBA is set on doing 4 dunkers, as we've seen in most of the past years, every dunker is going to go head-to-head against the other dunkers in round 1. If we use the participants from last night, McClung would face off against Brown, Toppin, and Jaquez in round 1. So yes, he would have to prepare 3 different dunks. So McClung would do his first dunk and the judges would do nothing. They would take notes, they would talk amongst themselves, but no score, no arbitrary 8 through 10 score is going to be given for the dunk. Jacob Toppin would then come up and he would do his dunk. And at that point, the judges would flash the face of the winner of the head-to-head battle. No scores are needed. It's easier. It's much easier for us as human beings to look at 2 different things and say, this one was better than that. Instead of saying, well, this one was an 8 and this one was a 9, but I don't know what an 8 means and I don't know what a 9 means. It's outdated. It's ridiculous. Let's just say I could look at the contest last night and tell you which dunk was better if you show me 2 dunks. And I think the judges would have a much better time doing that. I also think it adds competition, and I also think it's better for the viewer. Players would do this round robin style. Everybody would dunk 3 times, and eventually at the end of round 1, everybody would have a record. You either go 3-0, 2-1, 1-2, or 0-3. Let's say McClung goes 3-0 and Toppin and Brown tie at 2-1 each. What the judges would then do is think. The tiebreaker is Jaylen Brown had 3 dunks. Jacob Toppin had 3 dunks. Of all those 6 dunks, which one was the best? Whoever did that dunk, that's whose face they'd show on their panel. That's the tiebreaker. At that point, the top 2 dunkers would go to a final round where they only do 1 dunk. And I know what you're saying. Well, I want to see 2. Yeah, I do too. But they've already done 3. Let's just say that it's safer on the body. It's more realistic that they only have to plan for a max of 4 dunks. And in this final dunk, it would encourage them to have their best and brightest. It would encourage them to do something original. They know to win the competition, they have to wow the audience. They have to wow America. They have to wow the judges with one singular dunk. I would hope they bring something special. At that point, they both do their dunk, and then the judges put the face of the winner on their screen. It's less arbitrary, there's more competition, and I just think it's a better format. The final way I would fix this competition, if the format change wasn't enough, would be to switch around the participants. I don't know if it was my youth or the nostalgia, but when I think back to growing up, middle school and high school, watching these dunk contests, there was always somebody in there who was important. And I don't say that to be disrespectful. I'm not saying that Jacob Toppin is not important and that Mac McClung coming from the G League is not important. I will give credit to Jaylen Brown. The Celtics are on a run to possibly the NBA Finals. He is a very important piece to that happening, and he's coming out there and he's quote unquote risking his body. And I know they've been busy playing a busy schedule. Like, he deserves credit for going out there and doing what he did, even though he is the thumbnail of this video and I'm kind of making fun of him, but I do give him credit. My point is that these 4 guys are likely no one's favorite players, and I don't think last night changed anything. So I think the NBA has a question to ask itself. What is the purpose of the dunk contest? And I know that sounds stupid, right? But answer it. Is the purpose entertainment? If entertainment is the priority, there's 2 ways to get that done. You either have your all-stars, your Jason Tatums, your Lukas, your Devin Bookers doing mediocre dunks, but at least there's guys people want to watch. Or you have your average, no-name, backup, bench player G Leaguers doing fantastic dunks that, hey, I don't know who this guy is, but he can sure dunk. But last night, what we had was mediocre guys doing mediocre dunks. And the NBA is not going to be able to force the all-stars to actually come in and dunk against their will. I think we're past that point. So it's time to outsource. So my second idea to change the participants is to quite literally outsource to social media, to the Instagram dunkers, to the TikTok dunkers. I can literally scroll through my feed and see better dunks done in a YMCA by some guy that will never go to the league than I did last night. And I get it. It's hard for an NBA player to set aside the time and plan for 4 different dunks and be creative and have to worry about that and also worry about being an NBA player. Like I said, the Pandora's box is already open. We are already allowing a G Leaguer, an NBA affiliate, if you will, to participate in the NBA dunk contest. And this year, they didn't even try to hide it. You know, last year, I think maybe the Sixers called him up from the G League so he'd be eligible, and then he won. And so I think he hasn't played a game for the Orlando Magic all year. He's been strictly G League, and he's still got the call up. I get it. He has to defend his title, but you understand my point. So here's how this would work. It's actually very similar to the format I had at the beginning of this video where we have head-to-head battles, but instead of 4 guys on their own team, you have a 2v2. You would get 2 NBA players who want to participate, who want to keep the title of Slam Dunk Champion in the NBA, and they would face off against 2 social media dunkers. The social media dunker would have a head-to-head against both NBA players. Everybody would dunk twice in the first round. Then the social media dunker with the best record would go up against the NBA player with the best record, and they would have one final dunk-off. Social media guy dunks, NBA guy dunks, and the judges score it. And then you'd have this camaraderie of, oh, can the NBA guys get their title back? Oh, the social media guys won it. Can they come back and defend? And I just think that would be much more entertaining to the general public. I've dunked 1 time in my life, and it wasn't in a game. I have absolutely no room to talk, but that's what I did for the last 12 minutes. I hope you enjoyed. We'll see you next time.